Hi, everybody. I'm Mark Hartman. I am a digital designer who's worked on the Oxpeckers website and tools since about 2013. I've been freelancing under a company called Artman Designs for a while now. I kind of manage and help execute the coding requirements for the digital tools such as WildEye for Oxpeckers. Okay, so this will be a sort of just an overview of the WildEye user experience and a bit of a technical sort of deep dive into what goes into making a tool such as WildEye. And hopefully through this, we can sort of improve the interaction and understanding for everybody involved of the WildEye tool itself. And it all starts off with the data. So we'll be sort of working our way sort of from the front end all the way to the deepest back end to where the developers put the technology stacks together. But to get to where we are today, it all starts with the data that needs to get compiled and scrubbed. The reason it has to be compiled and scrubbed is so that a computer can understand it, and this can get fit into a database. Any web application, any tool, any service that runs online that utilizes data in any way needs to conform to some kind of a database. And this is just a snapshot of some random Oxpeckers data. It's scrubbed and clean, but it's still raw. So how does this become the sort of visualizations that we see here? We utilize a tool called Mapbox, and Mapbox is kind of like this open sort of API that allows developers to interact with these things on a front end, right? So this just provides all that geographic sort of data and components and styling and stuff, very much like a Google Maps sort of, call it a framework or like infrastructure, so that this stuff can be utilized in various web services, applications, or software. Utilizing Mapbox, we sort of take that data and then it becomes sort of filtered down into two components. You need that data that we've explored earlier, which is cleaned and scrubbed, that can get converted and uploaded into Mapbox as a data set. And then the other component is the actual map style, which is something that Mapbox provides, and you can jump in there, and it is incredibly open and complex tool that allows you to basically customize a map and allow that map to represent various types of sort of built-in information, from like street level name type stuff to region names and that kind of thing. So any kind of map that you would be familiar with Google Maps, but then allows you to put layers on top of that. And those layers are essentially your data. So once that's done and these things are combined successfully, you end up with a raw sort of Mapbox combined style and data set. And this is what that kind of looks like. So you can already see it starting to kind of take shape. But in this form, it is still not 100% usable. It's visual and it's capable, but it's not something that you could just now sort of plug into a tool or a web service and expect anybody to have a reasonably decent experience with. So from here, we move on to the style layer. And now you can see it's kind of starting to come together. The style and the data is now combined, but for something as, the amount of data and visual, the geographic long lat coordinates and all that stuff, it is quite a dense amount of data, and sort of just plugging it into Mapbox raw like this does not yield a sort of positive user experience. So from here, that's where myself and Tristan, our developer, come in, and we sort of work as a team to create this thing and make it more usable and plug it into the sort of front end of the WildEye tool and allow it to become more usable. And we do that by sort of on a front end level, it's HTML and CSS. At this level, it's still something that a designer like myself can utilize, jump in and tweak and organize. What you see here is literally the code that generates everything that you see on the tool itself, from the pop-ups, from the menus, from the links, from the subscription services, all that kind of stuff. This is just that front-end markup of that in HTML and a bit of CSS styling. But that's not all that's required. The deeper sort of developer sort of eye is required, and the code is actually created by my colleague Tristan, and that is where things get a bit more complicated. So my colleague has created very clean and creative code that is incredibly performant and effective at what it does. And now, what is the actual technology stack that all this rests on? Because in this modern age of sort of web application design, nothing is ever built from the ground up. There are a host of tools and things available to utilize to make life easier and for teams to collaborate better. So for WildEye in particular, we use a system called GitLab, which basically acts as the repository for any team and any various sort of walks of life. So designers, project leads, developers themselves, they all collaborate. It creates an environment where there's a repository of code that sits, and it creates an environment where people can all contribute individual pieces to that code. And then somebody at the top would merge and sort of filter all that code and make sure that the application itself is working. This is standard practice today in terms of development. It is a very powerful, agile way to develop applications and stuff like that. PG, so the technology stack for the server itself is a tool called PG Admin, and this is the tool that is used to set up the entire sort of database structure. So the way that this thing interacts with all the data from the very sort of foundation level. This is configured and tweaked, and security is put in place to make the database secure. The server itself is running on Amazon Web Services, which is incredibly powerful and scalable, which is the important part, because as things get more intense in terms of the amount of data we're loading and the costs increase and stuff like that, Amazon provides a service that is very scalable in that sense.